went to load that last one, and it was about 8 minutes, and it was going to take 2 hours and 15 minutes to load. And I have to look at things differently. I have to look at, I'm the Messiah. And in order to listen to me speak, it's a privilege to listen to me speak. I'm truthful, I'm faithful, I'm brave, I'm kind. I look at the culmination of my life's events and the things that I've lived through and that I've done and had to do to prove myself worthy of being me to people that are not worthy of that proof. And you just look at the experiences of my life and people watching my life. You only imagine being Spencer J. Kimball and Ezra Tapp Benson and watching a boy who's not even 4 yet go to church during Easter weekend, come back home and be able to declare what they're doing is wrong because it makes no sense. And that's just by talking to my mother and watching the Lone Ranger and Tonto, that it's wrong for an innocent person to pay for guilty people's selfish actions. That's not feasible. It does not apply in physics. It's not rational. You don't kill an innocent baby for a murderer or a rapist to get a second chance at life because that innocent baby is like the witness to their crimes. And that's what people say when they talk about Jesus. We're not worthy of being a righteous person, so we needed this innocent baby to die to wash away our sins. And that's what they're saying. And I was not even 4 years old yet, and I went home afterwards, and that particularly disturbed me. We probably went to like Luby's or Baskin Robbins or something afterwards, and I just sat there and I was like, no. And I got home and explained it, and my mom was like, Earl might have a point, and my dad and my sister Linda were saying, no, Earl, you just don't get it. We need him to pay. We're not good enough, and we need him to pay out for all our bad deeds and our sins. And I was like, no, because on the Lone Ranger, when the one guy went to jail and Butch Cavendish or whoever it was tried to make him pay for his crimes, the Lone Ranger and Tonto had to make sure that the guilty guy paid for his crimes and went to jail, and the innocent guy didn't because they were threatening to kill the innocent guy's family if he didn't go to jail for the bad guy. And that's what you guys are saying that Jesus has to do for you, and you're saying you love him. But Butch Cavendish does not love that guy he's trying to send to jail to do more crimes. Okay? That makes no sense. Okay? So when I explained that, and I explained it that way, and the Mormon church had a virtual presence in my house to hear, the little boy Earl, born of Ralph and Mary, correct this man. Okay? And he did not accept this correction. Because by the time I was about 10, when there was a little girl at our school that went to Conley Elementary School, and they talked bad about her, and said the one kid walks up to me, she came to school with a black boy's blood on her. And I'm like, well, that's horrible. What happened? Is he all right? What happened to her? How did that happen? What happened for that to happen? That sounds horrible. Did she help him? I hope she didn't hurt him. I'm like my mom's boy, right? And then when I brought Carl to to primary school with me one time, they all sat there and said, well, he can't get into heaven. He's black. They can't get into heaven. And I was like, okay, that was nuts. And I had to go discuss it with my mom. And there was a single gentleman in our church that was black. And I was like, what the hell? Why would, if he can't get into heaven, he could be a servant in heaven to the white people. And in Cruces, he was a single man. It was a good opportunity for him to get good jobs and stay away from people that are not allowed to have good jobs. So he took the bullshit being a servant in heaven afterwards to get a good job here on earth and not have to be involved in, quote, criminal activity to survive in his environment. So it was not a bad business decision for that man, and he didn't have a wife and kids to accept his decision. You see what I'm saying? So it's anybody wasn't allowed to drink watermelon wine, right? Old dogs and children and watermelon wine, right? If he did, he better not let any of those hypocrites find out, right? You're funny. But as we go through this stuff, it's a privilege to hear me talk. It's a privilege to listen to me talk. It's a privilege to hear me correct people that are wrong. And I'm not trying to be right. When they took me to Sierra Vista and they had me, a man from University of Chicago psychology department came to talk to me. And they talked to me about Dawkins and Hawking. I didn't know who either one of these men were. And I corrected their studies or analysis within a couple of minutes. Just talking to that man, and then I made a connection with Hawking, and we talked. And I corrected a lot of his theories. And I sat there and told him, no, you can't say that the universe is constantly expanding, because it's not. Okay, you have supernovas and black holes. I saw that on a Disney cartoon, right? It's evolving into a black hole. So you have these certain things where it expands and contracts. So the way you want to look at space is the same way you would look at nature, where you have a tree that starts from a seed and then grows and then dies and decomposes, and then a new seed plants another tree. And you're going to want a lot of things in space are similar to what we have here because of the symbiotic relationships. Because they were talking, well, these things come from space. It's not so much comes from space, it's all interactive. Okay, so it's not coming from space, it's matter interacting with matter. That's physics. So you can't sit there and say, a lot of the stuff we have life from came from, all the stuff we have life from, quote unquote, is interacting in space. And I had another person tell me, nature abhors a vacuum. You can't have nature without a, quote, vacuum that you see. The space is a vacuum. Or, so there are certain, there's no oxygen there. There's no air. There's no atmosphere. Okay. In order for our atmosphere and the gravity to come together and form our planet stuff, we need space. Without space, we don't have planet Earth and the sun. And so you, instead of saying this pours this and stuff like that, just look at it and see how it works, and then respect and appreciate it. And you have so many people trying to quantify things and explain things, and certain things just cannot be quantified. Like pi, like we talked about last night. When I talked to my dad, he goes, pi's not a number, Dad. No, it represents infinity, because it's a number, 3.7 that keeps going, right? Well, then it's not a number. Okay? They're trying to equate something that they can't equate because it never ends. You can apply numbers to it. That's not going to make any sense of it, and they're not going to be able to quantify it. And that's what they attempt to do. So when you have the explanation of that in the book of Genesis, there is no God but God, and God is not begotten, nor is God begotten, God always is, always has been, and always will be. Then you understand, like Judah Krishnamurti said, there is an origin of all things. All right. And one can't say where that begins and where that ends. Because you can't quantify that. And so when you explain that to people, it's just don't even bother. You'll waste your time. Like Pascal said, just wager that there is an origin of all things. Okay. Have faith in the origin of all things. Obey the natural laws given, by the origin of all things to sustain ourselves through loving one another. Because when you become selfish and you try to manipulate and you try to replace the power and the glory of the origin of all things with your delusion of power through manipulation, you destroy everything necessary for the gift of life. And when they were talking about that, I haven't been able to explain it yet. They haven't let it load. But when they saw that sphere through that telescope, and they had that one gentleman say, that would be an advanced. That's not an advanced civilization. Okay? A humble existence, far exceeds the delusions of an advanced civilization that tries to harness energy and see it as power and manipulate that energy to the point where it's destructive to the essence of its creation, that goes beyond its invention and it's imagination. It's not hard. Okay. All the ones that didn't load today, don't worry about it. That's probably me just correcting you through quantum computing. Your fear of being exposed as a liar is unfounded. It's already evident that you're a liar. So why are you afraid of everybody finding out that you are? When it's already, Donald Trump, Barack Obama, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, you're a liar. You're a manipulator. You use money to manipulate people and get them to believe that money is actually needed and real. That's a lie. Okay, so you're a pervert who is you use the invention of criminal activity through perversion to feel powerful to manipulate others. Now, just stop yourself. Don't participate. Use your technology to communicate that you no longer want to be a pervert and be involved in criminal activity. And then you want to be able to help people live more respectful, dignified lives. Don't go on a witch hunt trying to get people that were involved in sexual activity that you all condoned through economic manipulation and conflict, through participating in popularity contests and elections. And you put your own children into that vulnerable position by participating. So you can't sit there and splinter in the plank. You can't say that person is more guilty of sexual deviation when you'll take money to sexually reproduce and tell other people if they don't have money to sexually reproduce, we'll lock your children out of housing, we'll not give them food, and we will watch them die in poverty because we believe that money is real and we can write it on a piece of paper and make it a law like gravity and photosynthesis. I'm going to attempt to load this one. We'll see if the cowards let it go through. We'll see how well our quantum computing is working. All right, peace.